Welcome to the 3 AM edition of the ROM Hack and Fan Game Marathon, where I fell behind schedule and have to record at 3 AM. Now let's talk about Pikmin 2. Pikmin 2 is a lot like Dark Souls 2 in that it has the number 2 in the title and it's probably the most polarizing game in the series. Among Pikmin fans, nobody seems to be neutral on this game. It's a game that they either think is incredible or is easily the worst in the series. For every detractor of this game, there is a defender. Even though I'm one of the people that thinks it's great, I can definitely acknowledge some of its flaws. There's a lot of random nonsense that you can't always predict. There are weird and tremendously inconvenient game design choices here and there. You can't summon spirits while hollow, the Estus flask sucks and you have to use the healing crystals, every weapon breaks after 5 minutes so you have to... I'm still talking about Pikmin, just so we're clear. Pikmin doesn't get releases like Mario or Zelda, so the fans have been doing a lot of heavy lifting. Pikmin 2 has already had plenty of incredible mods, such as Pikmin 269, where you have to kill Mr. Krabs. Today, though, I have a more subtle ROM hack called Pikmin 2 Regrown. This is a reimagining of the original Pikmin 2 that adds some new enemies and treasures while also changing the game's layout dramatically for an ultimately new experience. This came out earlier this year and it's been getting updates every now and again, and I think it's a pretty good deal in its current state and definitely more than what it seems at first. The first thing you should understand about this game is that it's very deceptive. At first, it just looks like the regular Pikmin 2, but once you actually delve deeper, you start to see a bunch of cool new shit. I think the intended audience for this game is people who have played through the original game 100 times like I have. If you played Pikmin 2 like once or twice 15 years ago and then started playing this hack, many of the differences within the first hour of gameplay might be pretty tough to spot. But if you're an expert on Pikmin 2, it's a different story. A lot of the work on this game has been done on the surface world. Treasures have been rearranged and hidden in different areas, and once in a while, you stumble upon a new cave that was never there before. If you played Super Mario Sunshine Eclipse from earlier this year, which if you haven't played that, you should definitely get on it as soon as possible, you may remember that that game was the original Super Mario Sunshine world with a number of brand new areas seamlessly stitched in between them all. It was a game where if you knew a lot about Super Mario Sunshine, you'd probably know what was new and what wasn't, but if you weren't super familiar with it, you might be forgiven for thinking that some of these new areas were always there. Really, it's the same with Pikmin 2 Regrown. And if you haven't already figured it out, let me just say that that's a damn good thing. Funnily enough, they actually reference Mario Sunshine in this game. You find a disc for the Japanese version and Olimar says in the log, for some reason, I just really like this one the best. I knew he had good taste. The new enemies are crazy. They brought back this stupid thing from Pikmin 1. You have this guy, which is a younger version of this thing from Pikmin 1. This guy's a son of a bitch. Big Froggy that emits poison. Hey Louie, can you give me a recipe for this guy? No. Just fucking no. Man at Legs now shoots pressurized water at you, and this guy now conjures bombs from the sky and leaves a trail of poison everywhere he goes. And I hate this dragonfly motherfucker. He swipes at you with his electrified tail while also breathing fire at you like a dragon. That is, an actual dragon, not the fly type. This guy just fucked me up. I was not at all familiar with his game. This is actually very impressive. Most new Pikmin enemies I've seen in previous ROM hacks were more or less modified versions of enemies I was already familiar with. But this one, as far as I can tell, is brand new. Big points for that. When you kill him, he drops a Pokemon card for Charizard. It's no bad bitch wasp type Pokemon, but you can't win them all, right? Some ROM hackers treat the base game like a bad bitch wasp with a terrible personality. You know, they go in saying, I can fix her. And I see this with Pikmin 2 every now and again, you know, they always want to fix this game, which is why they made a caveless edition that removed all the caves. I like the caves. I think the primary impetus for this mod was not to fundamentally change Pikmin 2 per se, but to torque it into a more evenly paced version of itself. In the original game, you'd get to the Awakening Wood and the blue Pikmin would be trapped behind an electric fence that you needed the yellow Pikmin for, except the yellow Pikmin aren't available yet because you unlock them in the following level and have to come back. Essentially, so much of this level is not explorable on the first go because of how much is covered in water, and because the blue Pikmin are locked behind an electric fence that you can't break yet. I never saw things like this as flaws per se, but I think these kinds of things feel like a tease for some people. I can't say I quite understand it, but at the same time, I think these changes kept the game fresh in a way that I appreciate fully. They also tweaked the way challenge mode works. On top of having all new challenge mode maps, they also no longer require that no Pikmin die for the perfect score. You just need to find all the treasures instead, which makes a lot more sense to me, otherwise you're just hunting for the key and then running for the exit. One of my favorite new features is the automatic picking feature, where instead of hammering the A button for 3 hours to pull a bunch of Pikmin out of the ground, you can just hold the A button and it does it all for you. That's very convenient. It gets pretty exhausting having to slam that thing. I also love how the candy pop buds give you 10 Pikmin instead of 5. Everybody who's played this game will know that farming purple and white Pikmin in the original is a big pain in the ass. The flowers only appear in certain underground caves, and there are only enough to get like 15 in a single run if you're lucky. And if that's not bad enough, the game forces you to do it because there's this big ass treasure in the final level that requires the strength of 1,000 Pikmin. By the time I got to that part in this ROM hack, I had well over 100 purple Pikmin and I wasn't even trying to find them. That's a really good move on the game's part, gotta say. Somehow I expected the game to have less of that trademark Pikmin 2 chaotic randomness. It didn't, but I'm not gonna pretend I don't love it. I mean, come on, this is me we're talking about, right? For impatient players that just want to go, some areas of the game have been sped up and streamlined, like how regular treasures in the underground skip the appraisal process and just go cha-ching. This is a really great feature, although I have been spoiled by Luigi's Mansion Premium Deluxe, which essentially has a switch that says, "Never interrupt me again for any reason whatsoever for the rest of my life." I think that's something that could be considered for future updates to this mod. There is still a lot of interruption and chain yanking inherited from the original game. I don't know how feasible that is, but I imagine the developers have considered this since some of the interruptions have been streamlined. The last thing I want to talk about is the music. It's a much more subtle thing, but they've actually added instruments to the existing songs to heighten their dramatic power. It's another one of those things that you might not notice at first unless you're super familiar with the base game, but when you do, you go, oh yeah, that's some good shit. Pikmin 2 Regrown is easily a ROM hack worth playing for anybody who's a fan of Pikmin 2, but especially for the people who have played it 100 times. This is like an expansion pack to the original game. All the new additions are largely seamless and authentic. I can't really think of a reason to say no to this one. It's just good stuff. That's a wrap for today, but come back tomorrow and get plenty of sleep because it is a dream. Stay tuned and Merry Christmas, cousins!